welcome to the Liverpool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch, and once again, I'm interviewing someone who I think you will find fascinating because I find him fascinating. And it's a gentleman from my past, and from your past as well, and you'll know him when you see him. And I'm joined here by Leon Lopez. How you doing, Leon?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm good, bro. Look at that. Why you looking scared, bro? You're a professional, man. You're a professional actor, you know. You've been in this business, you know. And he goes, oh,
yeah, I'm like, I'm so humble.
Hey, listen, no reshoots. Leon is here talking about his journey as a director, but I mean, just in a little bit of a quick origin story. Everybody knows, we shoot here in Liverpool and stuff like that, even though we go on the net and everything. But like, you go way back to, the soap days here in Liverpool, Brookside, and everything like that. You probably hate talking about it.
But I don't mind at all. It's kind of what started me off. It's my foundation. I love it.
Yeah, but it's just the fact that reason why I only mentioned it is because there are a lot of people, who start out as actors and then don't know what to do or, how to get in. And, I mean, hopefully we'll find out some stuff like that from you when we look at the journey. But, I mean, like, you've been active for some time, but what I thought was really interesting is, and because you said when you started out, you were doing video blogs. And then I said, video blogs? I never heard of that. I mean, and I'm old too. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is an analog word. Right, Phil?
Do people not make video blogs anymore? What do they call
them video blogs. They call them TikToks or whatever.
Vlogs,
and everything.
Vlogs. Video,
I remember when they did the vlog thing. But tell us why you decided that, you know what, I'm gonna start making some vlogs.
So I originally got into making films or making any type of content. It wasn't called content back then, but because I wanted to put myself in something. So working as an actor for many years, and I was blessed, truly blessed. Like I was working non-stop. And even when I left Brookside and then I moved down to London, I was working in theatre quite a lot. And but even the TV gigs that I was doing or I was going up for, they were always the same type of things. It was very... not even generic, it was just the same. So I thought, you know what, I want to do something a little bit different. So I thought, well, why don't I? And we're talking like 2007, 2008. So it doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it probably sounds long to everybody watching.
Not to me, definitely not to Phil.
Sometimes people say stuff and I'm like, that wasn't long ago. And they were like, it's 20 years now.
Yeah, dude. You're talking about MySpace.
It's mad. Yeah, MySpace was MySpace times. So then I was like, well, the only way to do it is let's make something. And I did write. I used to be part of the Liverpool Everyman Writers Group when I was a kid, but I didn't want to do it myself. So a friend of mine who was a writer and he'd worked in TV, I told him what I wanted it to be, and I was like, I'm going to be in it, and these are the other actors. So he came up with a little 20-page script, and at the time, there was a company who were going to be putting stuff online, and this is pre-Netflix, this is pre-everything. And I'd sold it to them and they were like, look, if you make it and it looks good, we'll give you some money for it. Not a lot. But I was like, oh, that'll be a great way to fund it. And, and then I got another friend of mine who was a filmmaker. He'd been to film school, hadn't really made much, but, and I was like, he was going to produce it for us and he was going to direct it and light it. And when we were shooting it, I did notice it's like, we didn't have a makeup person as well, which was my fault. I'd basically produced it, cast it, found the locations or whatever. But when we were shooting stuff, I did write a theme tune. I did write a theme tune for it as well.
All right. I was joking.
That's comedy, but I did. But the plan was because all the people in it were all from musicals that I've been in. So I was gonna get. It was called Boyfriend Material, and it was 4 lead guys, and I was gonna get the 4 people to sing it. So it was gonna be a verse. Anyway, that was. I had a whole idea behind it. Anyway. But when we were shooting it, I was like, it just doesn't look right. Like, he just lit the whole room. And so when we got it back, it took ages for him to edit it. And he was a lovely guy, and I shouldn't, because he might watch these things, and I think it's not about him. He just wasn't that experienced. Anyway, my friend who wrote it, who was quite well known, like within his industry, was like, look, performances are all right, it just doesn't look great, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable you putting my name to it, so you can do what you want with it, just
I hate
don't.
When people just do that.
But it was true.
But content is content. I hate it when you can't prejudge yourself, because the main thing about it is the audience out there, that's who it's for.
No, it wasn't great.
Okay, fine. I was trying to help you.
It wasn't great, but I appreciate your efforts. So anyway, what happened was I was like, well, you know what, going to learn how to do it myself. So I was on tour at the time. I was doing We Will Rock You, I think. I think it was even before that. But anyway, I'd got like I started off with my phone. I started making little videos with my phone. And then I was using iMovie. And then I upgraded to Final Cut. And then I was teaching myself with that. And then my brother bought me a little flip phone. I think they were called Flip. It was like a little... it was like oblong, and then it had a camera on it, and you flipped it out, it had a USB so you could put it in. So it was digital video. He bought me for Christmas, so I was using that for videos. And then I upgraded to another camera, can't remember what. Anyway, and they weren't great, but while I was on tour I was making blogs about the shows that we were in, and I was putting them on YouTube, and then I was filming myself around the house, and it was all just training myself how to edit. And then when I was on tour, that's when I went, that was the We Will Rock You. I bought another camera. A friend of mine who he'd done a show reel in America. And at the time, self-made show reels are quite popular now, but not many people were doing them. There was one company in North London that had done it, because I'd been an actor in a friend's version of it, and they were just using normal like DV video cameras, and they weren't great quality. But this came back, and it looked like... CSI Miami. I mean, he was in LA when he did it, but it literally looked like that. And I was like, what? And he said, no, they just had a little camera, and I don't know what it was. It was only small, like a stills camera. I was like, really? So that's when I realized Canon had brought out their camera. And they started putting video mode in it, and it was all professional quality and whatever. So Sony had just released one. It was 300 quid, and it was a mirrorless one. It was semi-pro. So I bought that, and that's when I started shooting all the video blogs behind scenes for We Will Rock You, putting them online. And then bit by bit, I was just training myself how to... I was using the flip on my phone, and then I was teaching myself multi-camera, editing. My character died at the interval, so I'd be editing the blogs in between. So I'd shoot them in the day, then I'd edit them, and then we put them on. And then at the end of that, a couple of the actors were like, oh, well, will you film me for scenes? Because I want to do some stuff. So I basically set up a little company doing show reels. And bit by bit, I tried to film myself in things, and I realized, I don't like filming myself. I get in my head too much with that type of thing. I like to focus on one thing. So if I'm directing something or shooting it, I can focus on that. If I'm acting in it, I'm too self-obsessed with looking at myself that I can't see anybody else in it.
Well, this is what I think is a good question here, is because, as a director and having a director's eye, I mean, that's good that you kind of like could sense that about yourself. But, I always found that, when you look at other people's acting, it's easy to see the cracks. Yeah. And everything else like that. So, I mean, I was going to ask you, like, what is your opinion, even though you set it up as a business at that time, because it has grown, what is your opinion of self-tapes, and do they work?
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, I'm not a fan of self-tapes, but the sad thing is, we're not going back really from it. That's the way it's going to be. I prefer to be in the room. I like that, because obviously you're putting people on tape. Because for working with an actor, it's not just about seeing them on tape. It's nothing worse than you cast somebody off a tape, and then you get in the room, and what they do on the tape is all they can do. When you're in the room...
But they worked really hard on that.
And it's like when you're in the room with somebody, like a lot of actors, they say, I'm in there and the director was saying do this and do that. And it's not because they necessarily want you to do that. They want to see how you take a note, because sometimes you're on the fly and something might come into your mind and you're like, oh no, it's this now. Because even I've got a plan of what I see the storyline to be and where I see the character's arc. But sometimes something will happen and you'll go, oh no, this is that. And that might unlock something within the story to make it great. So I need to know that the actors can pick that up.
And that actor that just came in that room, you weren't even expecting it, but there was something about them that they had that you wanted to work with.
Yeah, that could kind of infuse into it. Good, yeah. But the thing with self-tapes is, you don't necessarily get that. But I always say now, like sometimes I'll read them with friends, because, people do it online now. So they'll set it up, call me up, and then ask me to read the other side of it. And I always think now, if you're doing a self-tape, usually it's only a couple of scenes or maybe one scene. So then maybe give a couple of versions, but don't just give 3 versions of the same thing. And also only give a couple of versions if you see, because sometimes you'll do stuff, because even now, I haven't done a self-tape for ages, but when I first started, I was still acting and doing self-tapes. And sometimes you'd be like, okay, it's that. And then you put it down and you'd be like, oh no, maybe it's this. And if it's 2 different versions of the same thing, you can put that across and give that over to them, and then the director or the casting director and the producer will see you just give as if you just took a note on or whatever. I think that's handy.
I mean, I always find that is good when person pauses, you know, because they're not just reading it from the script verbatim. They pause. They kind of like naturally pause as we do in conversation, you know, or a person who chooses an emotional scene, because that is where people could really go downhill is with emotion, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, that faking crying thing and all that kind of stuff.
But it's tough because with self-tapes, sometimes you get sent it and it's like 3 lines in a whole scene. You know, there's a 3-page scene, you've got 3 lines for, and you've got to put everything across with that. You know, they don't give you the option to. It's not like, oh, it'd be lovely if they could say pick any scene you want and you could go for it. It's kind of because I'm like for me as an actor, I find the more mundane stuff harder to do. Then like big emotion, if it's kicking off and angry, like I'm a very dramatic scouser. Do you know what I mean? So the bigger over the top things tend to come more naturally to me, because as I was saying to you earlier, it's like for me with self-tapes, people say, oh, what can I do to get the job? And there's nothing you can do other than go in there and be truthful. I say to people, don't try gimmicks, don't try, you know, just go in, however you read it, what you see the truth of that character is, be truthful. And it's what you've just said, you know, that mightn't necessarily be following everything in the punctuation. It might be that you're finding a beat here or whatever to take a bit of time, or the emotion takes over or whatever. But if I'm watching it and I believe what you're saying, then that's like, wow, that's it. Because there's so many times actors, you rehearse it so much and you're like, okay. And then God came down and then did this to my heart. and you can just see it.
You over milk it.
I'm not even over, just over rehearse it.
And
then, you know, every single beat is like, and then I've got to look over there because he comes here, and then I've got to reach up there because that happened there. And you can see it when you're watching it. Whereas because every time you do a scene, you should be finding something different in it. Every time, you know, you asked me some questions downstairs about what you were telling me some of the questions, and I said what I was going to say. Now you've asked me the same question, a completely different things come out my mouth. It's got the same essence, but
it's natural, really.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's what the self-tape should be.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It's like you shouldn't necessarily be able to nail it 3 times exactly the same.
Yeah.
It'll be similar because obviously we want once you've got it locked, the continuity has to be the same. But every single time, and depending on the person who throws the line at you or whatever, you're going to find something different in it. Your emotion's going to be different. And that's the spark that when you look at that back when you're editing it, you go, that eye just twitched there, or the mouth did this. And that might be something that the actor hates. But what you hate is what brings some kind of authenticity and a brilliance to the role. So...
it's kind of like when you watch Denzel, he always kind of like rubs his cheek, you know, and it's a tick, you know, and I mean, actors have ticks, and they make it work for them and everything like that, you know, and I mean that's the whole thing. You can't fake that funk. Now I know I had asked you like what was like your first like directing gig, but then you said, well, my first gig was pretty much those vlogs. But no, I mean, like, basically, you one of those people that made the transition from acting into directing.
Yeah.
And you've been directing some, like, rather popular TV content of late now and everything. So, I mean, what was your first TV gig?
Okay. So, my first TV gig was Hollyoaks.
All right.
So that came about. So when I said, so it's not necessarily the vlogs that were my first act. So basically the vlogs taught me how to do, like, work with sound, all the technical side of it. And then off the back of that, well, as I said, I used to be a writer as part of the Liverpool Everyman Young Writers Group. And that was there's a project called Right Now every year. So you'd have to do like a 10-minute film. A 10-minute play. So what I did is I took a lot of those plays and then I shot them as short films. And then people saw them, and then people started employing me then to shoot their short films. And then I got to a point where a friend of mine who was in my very first short film, she'd read a play that I'd written called Soft Lad, and she was like, oh, why don't you shoot it as a film? And I was at that point where I was like, look, I need to do something on a bigger scale, and it was going to be, you know, it was feature length or wherever. I had no money, but I managed to get a tiny budget of like 15 grand. And that was to pay the actors, I had a tiny crew like me, a DOP, sound person, and a makeup artist. Ever since doing Boyfriend Material, I always need a makeup artist. Because there's nothing worse than when the cast don't look good.
No matter how pretty you are, bro, you know, you can always get that shine off you.
I always say to the actors, it's like, put makeup on. And it's always the boys, I don't need makeup. I'm like,
exactly.
You don't want to see the makeup, of course, but you put makeup on, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
It does make a difference. Anyway, so like, and then we had 5 actors in it, managed to get all the locations for free and all of that. Anyway, we shot it in 7 days. Brilliant. Worked out for me. It was so many flaws in it I watch now, but managed to get a distribution company on board, and we did worldwide distribution, mostly UK. They sold it to a company in America, Germany, and then we got on Netflix for 2 years.
Wow.
Netflix UK. And that just changed everything. Then people started going, oh, well. And I then took a year out to go and do a master's because I, as an actor, I went to drama college, but I started working straight after college, didn't go to drama school. And there's a lot of stigma in the industry for people who didn't go to drama school. I managed to fudge it a lot, and people didn't necessarily know, but I didn't know that. I know that if I did go to, it didn't necessarily have to be prestigious, but there was benefits
didn't
to
have
that.
to be like RADA or anything like that, but I mean, I think that is also a British thing too. You know, British actors versus American actors. A lot of them, you know, favor going to some kind of dramatic kind of.
Yeah, well, also it's the industry. You know what I mean? It's like they think. So I thought, well, I'm not going to have that when it comes to my filmmaking. So Soft Lad was in the East End Film Festival, and that was sponsored by the University of East London. And I saw at the back of it they had an ad for their masters in film, so I applied for that, got on it. I told my agent at the time I'm taking a year out, and to be honest, I took a year out, but I got more work than I'd ever got. I did EastEnders, I got a year at the RSC, so I was doing my masters. I made 5 different films. I was shooting my thesis film at the same time as I was rehearsing for 3 plays at the RSC, then moved to Stratford to do that. It was a bit of a, but it was amazing because this is what it's like in the industry. You know, when you're grafting, you're doing 3 or 4 different jobs.
Well, see, this is what I mean, though. It's kind of like, okay, so how'd you get in the door, in the gate? Because, like, you're talking about Holyos, you're talking about EastEnders. But, I mean, was it because you were in Brookside?
Well, no, EastEnders, they were acting jobs. So the EastEnders and the RSC were acting jobs. So I got the acting jobs at the same time I was doing my masters. And then when I finished my masters, there was a film up in Liverpool that was being shot, and they knew about Soft Lad, and they'd seen that I'd made it for like 10 grand, and I think they had about 10 grand. And there was a girl called Kerry Williams, Kerry Williams, and Michelle Billington was producing it. So they said, would I come on board and help them shoot this thing? And we did a film. It was called Out of Time. They did self-distribution with it, but it was a lot. It was massive. It was too big. It was too big for the amount of money. But we shot it, you know, and they were really happy with it. But while I was up in Liverpool shooting that, because I was in London at the time, Hollyoaks were then looking for a new director's roster, because I don't know what had happened. I just think they wanted some fresh blood. And then people had seen that I was shooting up here, so somebody contacted me and said, do I want to come and have an interview to shoot as a trial on Hollyoaks? And at first I was like, no, because I want to do original content, my own stuff. And it's not because I've got anything against Hollyoaks, but I know as an actor what it's like when you're a jobbing actor and you're doing, you know, stuff for yourself or not much money. But as soon as you get that big gig, commercial gig, like if you're on tour doing We Will Rock You, wherever, you go from earning like a few £100 being able to pay your rent to earning a few grand. And it changes your life, but the job isn't fulfilling. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. And then everybody, like, I'd already had some meetings with execs at different channels about pushing my own stuff, but they were all about, you need to build up your CV, you know, you need more credibility behind you. So I was like, yeah, I had the meeting at Hollyoaks, did my first block there, and then I ended up working there for a year because they just book you for blocks at a time. And then a friend of mine had recommended me to write to Emmerdale, the exec there. So I wrote to Emmerdale, had a meeting with the exec. That went really well.
You wrote Emmerdale?
Wrote to the exec.
Wow.
On an email. That's the thing, people keep saying.
Wait, you wrote the exec or you wrote the episode?
No, wrote to the exec.
No, see.
No, I didn't write the episode. Sorry, that's me.
Say, that's pretty prolific for Emmerdale.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no, but you can.
Leon thinks.
Oh, you can write. You can write episodes for this, like Hollyoaks and Emmerdale. I think they do. I don't know.
Hollyoaks is pretty progressive.
You know, it's like they have like trialed for You know, people, you could submit stuff and then they'll develop you. Like I've got a few friends who develop their writing through it, and then if you get to a certain stage, then they'll bring you on as a writer. I don't know if I'm sure Emmerdale do.
But also your experience with Brookside must have helped with Hollyoaks and then later Emmerdale, because you knew how the soap system worked.
Yeah,
100%. It's a whole different system.
Oh, the soaps, yeah, different. I mean, same but different, same essence but different structure. Like the best soaps were the best thing that ever happened to me, not just as an actor but as a director, because how quick it is, how you can shoot. So now when I'm working on the more high-end dramas, again, you have a bit more time, not that much, but because as much as you've got less time to shoot, it also takes a lot more time to set up because of the lighting structure and everything.
Because, like, we always do the cutaway, right? Like, there's always a scene, they cut away to another scene, and then they come back to that scene.
Yeah.
So do they shoot the whole scene?
No. It's a separate scene. You have to do it because a lot of the time it's not necessarily coming back to it. You get that a lot in the American soaps where you do pick up where you just left off, but usually, especially when I'm shooting stuff, sometimes you can get away with it. If, say, I'm pushed at the end of the day, say I've got, like at Emmerdale, and I've got 25 pages to shoot, and then we get to the end of the day, and it's like, oh, these are meant to be two different setups. This is what I'm saying about working on a soap. My brain goes, oh, okay, then I've only got an hour now. I've got 3 scenes to do, well, maybe an hour and a half, 3 scenes to do. I know that if I merge those 2 scenes, knowing I can cut it in the middle, get the actor to walk to there, pick that up, we're cross shooting this, so therefore I can run it all as one. It gives me half an hour then to get the last little bit that I can, on a drama you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. But when I've worked on Death in Paradise, and sometimes a storm will just come from nowhere, a hurricane will happen, and you lose a whole day, or you might lose half a day, and it's like, how much can you get in the can to shoot it? Because especially if you're on the very last block of the season, once everyone's gone home, they go home. They can't keep everybody there. It's either a case of losing that scene completely, trying to fit it somewhere else in the schedule, or so then my brain, knowing what I can do when I'm working on the soaps, is going, okay, whilst I've got that problem, I'll be thinking, whilst I'm shooting the next scene, how can I get that in? What can I do in order to make it work? And my versatility and flexibility from working on the soaps has given me the chance to do that. It's like I've never ever shot a show where I haven't completed, generally. And maybe every now and again I'll drop a scene somewhere knowing it can go somewhere, but I've never run over when I'm shooting stuff. It's like, because that is part of our job as the director.
No, exactly.
And not everyone thinks of that, and a lot of directors don't, and some directors don't care about it. But it's like knowing that you want to shoot it well, you want to make sure it looks good, make sure the performances are good, but you also want to shoot it in the time. Yeah. That's part of the job.
So let's go to Paradise, because it's a whole different animal than a soap. So you not only did Death in Paradise, but you also worked on Beyond Paradise, and everything. But both shows have the same kind of format, don't they?
Yeah, the same world.
Where a detective from outside comes in to be that detective for a month or a year or whatever it is, and everything. But they've been running for a good, like as you say, well, Death in Paradise was running for like about 9 to 10 seasons before you came in. So do you feel like as a new, well, I'm going to say as a new director, but for them as a new director coming in, how was that experience, to go into, because I suspect that they had their team and the cast and all that when you came on board.
It's Death in Paradise was my first like high-end TV job, like drama, evening drama type thing. And it's interesting because although on soaps, I feel like I was not more welcome, but it was, Hollyoaks was like going home because I worked there as an actor at Brookside, and I did Hollyoaks in the city as an actor and all that type of stuff. But again, and going from into Emmerdale and Corrie, a lot of the actors I knew from the seat, so there was that rapport and safety because they knew me as an actor. Going over there, I was like, oh, he's an actor coming in as a director.
But also you're in another country as well.
Yeah,
so, Hollyoaks is in a kind of like
but that was the least of the thing. It was just a lot of the time it's winning over the crew, because if you win over a crew, the part of most of the job's done, because I don't mean winning over them by being friends, but knowing you can do the job. Because you get lots of people who come in who can't do it. It's a tough job. It's a really tough gig working over there or working anywhere. So it's like when you've got someone who's like an actor and people know them as an actor, and I remember because one of the cameraman at the end, and we become good friends, and we went for drinks afterwards, and he said, Leon, when you first come in, we were like, oh, here we go again. He said, but you've really impressed us all. You know your stuff. You know this. He said, there was never a time like when an actor asked you a question, you didn't know what you were talking about. You knew exactly what shots you wanted and all those things. And I was like, well, yeah, because like I'd filled him in and said, no, this is my background. Before I came here, I had 10 years of training before I come here. You know, it's like a lot of people don't see that because it's not on your IMDb. Do you know what I mean? It's not on your LinkedIn. Do you know what I mean? It's like nobody knows that I spent all those years doing those videos and whatever. So, yeah, but that takes you. But then once that happens, everybody on that crew works on another crew. As you said, the grips go on to do another job next week. And so then all word of mouth. Now when I go to a job, everybody knows of me before I go there. But now no one knows, not as an actor. Everybody knows of me what I work like as a director. And I've had people who have come onto crews because they've gone, oh, I knew you were working on this, so I've booked on to come and do it. And that's like the biggest compliment to me.
Yeah, so how was being, like I said, it's a different animal. So working on a murder mystery, I mean, I love murder mysteries myself. Do you happen to like murder mysteries? And
yeah, I mean, I'm from the generation of like Poirot of a Sunday night and things
Ellery
like
Queen,
that.
my
it's
friend.
And
Columbo.
Yeah, Columbo. Well, I used to watch Columbo when I came home from school and those things. So it's like the old school one. So yeah, I do love it. I mean, I don't think Death in Paradise is like that. I wish it was more like that. I guess it is. But actually, I guess it is. Yeah. But I've done Midsummer Murders as well. And Midsummer Murders is a bit more like that. Although it's a bit slower than those things, but yeah, I love detail. It's like I don't like cutaways all the time, but the things with those shows and it was the exec of Death in Paradise said to me in the meeting when he booked me, he was like, look, the most important thing about the show is the detail. You know, you don't want to miss anything because you don't want to get into the edit and there's everything that's in there you need to make sure you've got. But I'm not an overshooter. I don't shoot crazy amounts of stuff. I shoot what I need. But the one thing I do need to get is make sure that I've got, making sure you're shooting the board, you've got all the shots, you've got anything that's a clue or whatever, but also doing it in a way that you can put it into it, but it doesn't look like it's a clue.
You have to hold that shot on that clue though, right?
Yeah, but not flat. No, but I don't like signposting it. I like it to be there. So it'll go in subliminally so the audience get it. Because there's nothing worse than you kind of get to it and then you go, boom, we're on the knife and everyone knows. Do you know what I mean? That's the knife, that's whatever. You kind of want it to be in there and make it feel organic. It was a different beast. But whenever I get any job, I always go back and watch. Like I'd seen odd episodes of Death in Paradise, but I went back to the first season and I watched it from the beginning to the end. And it's like, there's a lot of episodes. You don't need to do that on every job, but I like to make sure that I've got a language of what I like. I need to know the language of the world that we're in. But
also too is those characters, because they're not background characters, they're supporting characters. So you gotta watch those previous shows to see how they come in and they affect the storyline, don't you? So now going from mystery to comedy, you've been doing Brassic, but you said you've been on the last season of Brassic, and everything like that. Now, tell us about that, because I'm going to ask you a question about that final block scenario, but how was working on Brassic?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was a step away from what I was used to. It's sometimes I get a bit afraid of comedy, even though a lot of the stuff you are working has got comedy moments in it.
It's not a different animal,
but and it's like, comedy. But for me, once you've the script, I read the script, like my very first script, I was just howling. As soon as I, a few pages in, it was just like Danny Brocklehurst, who wrote, I was very lucky. He's one of the creators of Brassic, and he doesn't write every episode now, but both of my episodes he wrote. And the first one, I was just in stitches, and knowing the actors that I was coming to work with, and I worked with Ryan Sampson, who plays Tomo in it. My first episode, he basically led it, him and Steve, who plays Farmer Jim. And oh my goodness, it was like a masterclass every day. Like I was in awe, just blocking it and watching them what they do and just breaking it down and just the stuff that they add to it. And it gave me a lot more confidence, because I was like, I don't need to do anything because those guys are doing it. That's what I was going to say,
because it was the last season, right? So, I mean, they already know their characters.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of like facilitating,
sometimes it can be the other way, because sometimes people can drop the ball, but those guys were, it wasn't sometimes people can be on something for so long and they know it's coming to the end, and then the steam, and your job is to keep them up and lift them up. But, especially people like Ryan, he's just another level of actor. I've never worked with anybody like him. He's an absolute comedy genius. He could just turn stuff into... Anyway, so it was like that kind of... I felt in safe hands because also everybody around me felt safe and supported. So I just, I made sure I knew all my plans, what I needed. And I always go into a job. People always say, oh, you're always so prepared. Because some directors don't prep in that way. But for me, I'm like, my plans aren't necessarily my Bible that I stick to, but it just gives me a basis that if something goes wrong, I always know this is the basics that I need.
Yeah.
But then on the day, the time that I've got, we can play with it. Or, if blocking changes or whatever, people offer something new, being able to kind of facilitate that and allow people to feel part of it. Because for me, filmmaking and television making is a collaboration.
Yeah.
I want everyone to feel it, but ultimately I'm the one who makes the decision because that's my job. So it's like if people offer stuff up, I mean, sometimes it gets a little bit far. I remember one time we were doing a scene and like people will say, what about this? What about that? And I think one of the supporting artists started saying something.
Oh,
and I was like, it's not that I don't respect you at all.
By committee, that's
it was
the worst.
just a bit like it got too far and I thought, okay, I can allow a couple of people and it's not because the supporting artist doesn't matter, but I thought this is going a bit
like, where's
too
my
far
first
now.
AD, man?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why that person in my
Let's pull it back a little bit. But then I'll probably nick that idea anyway later and still use.
No, of course you nick it, but still, I don't need you to tell me that. No. So I was gonna ask you because you said with that last season, you said like you were doing the first block and then you did the final block, but you didn't do the final
so
episode.
Basically when they offered it to me, so I had a meeting with it. I was in Guadeloupe at the time and the producer messaged me because the producer who booked me on Death in Paradise the first time had moved over to Brassic, and he was like, messaged me, how do you want to come and do some Brassic? It's the last season. I was like, yeah, I'd love to. Wow. Okay. And he was like, okay, what block would you want? We haven't booked anybody yet. And I said, I don't mind. He said, I'll tell you what, we'll pencil you in for the first block because you haven't booked anybody yet. I was like, okay, great. So then with the agent, we were talking about that. And then last minute, he messaged, then he was like, look, are you okay if we move you to the last block? And I was like, yeah, okay, that's, I don't mind. To be honest, the show's been running so long. It's like, usually the first director, they say, they're starting it off and they're setting it up. But you're not. The show's already established. It's different if you're starting a show from scratch. Anyway, so I thought, well, the last block would be amazing because it'll be the very last episode ever shot.
But then why did they
and
not
then I
give
got
you
the
that?
script. Then I got the scripts and it was episodes 2 and episode 4. And like, oh no, because of cast availability, it was shooting out of order. So technically, I shot the very last episode ever of Brassic, but it wasn't the very last episode that goes out.
Oh, right. Okay. So, yeah. And I was asking you, like, so how do they keep track? Because if they have all these multiple directors on these different episodes, and I thought this was really interesting here, but you said that it's the producer.
Yeah, the producer. It's the producer. That's basically what you have your series producer who goes from the beginning to the end. So they make sure that there's a continuity all the way through. So they'll be involved in the script stage all the way. You'll be there with the script. So you normally get a draft of the script. You read it, then you can give your notes on it, and it can be anything, even to do with things you don't understand, clarity, can be character stuff if you know it well enough. It's like the thing with Death in Paradise, I've worked on it so long, so a lot of the time I'm like, I did an episode and, Darlene said this and she's saying this now, that wouldn't really match. Because sometimes the script team might be different and anyway. So, and the thing with Brassic, it was like you put your notes in, that goes off to the writer with the producer's notes, and then they'll all come back, but then the producer knows what's gone on all the way through. So, sorry, and also there's the script department as well, so you'll have the script editors, so they'll be in charge of the script editor, make sure that the clarity and the all the through
so
line
like pretty much
matches.
The episode that you're on, you have to make sure that you got that under control. So I'm gonna ask you, like, this is a question I usually ask students and everything else like that, so hopefully you have an answer. So basically, directing, it's like, I always say to them that it's about a director has to know what their style and their technique is. Like, when you're watching a Spielberg movie, it's a Spielberg movie. When you're watching a Tarantino movie, it's a Tarantino movie. They have two different styles, two different techniques, right? So you said that when the crew knows that, hey, Leon's coming on, I want to book that job. So did you ever thought about this?
So
what is your
I have
style
interest
of technique?
actually, because I was speaking to someone the other week about it, and I was always saying, it's like I never thought I haven't got a style. I'm not like do this in one shot. For me, I always I'm like, what is the show that I'm working on? What's the style of that show? But the one thing that makes things my style, which, because a friend of mine watched stuff and go, oh, I could tell that was your episode. I'm like, but how?
Yeah.
And said, I can tell. And you know what it is? I read a script, and what I read, the visuals in my head are what I put down as my shots. So where I see the block and where I visualize it when I'm looking for locations, because a lot of people don't realize, like the director, I pick the locations. I'm the person who picks the house. Yeah, with a team. Don't get me wrong, the team find them, but I'm the one who makes it. Yeah, exactly. Like they'll offer certain things up, or even sometimes I'll be like, look, I've read this. This is what I think it needs to be. This is how I see it. So it's like within that world. So I picture the characters in it, which is why I like to go back and watch a lot of the old stuff, so I know the characters, and so then I see, oh well, they'll be here. And I think me as an actor, I put myself in the position of that character. So if I'm blocking something and they're moving, it's like they're moving there because, oh, that's where I'd go, that's where I'd need to be, because my emotion would take me there. So then once I've blocked it, and then the shots come around that, and then ultimately that's where my style comes from, if that makes sense. It's like I'm not gimmicky, I'm not tricksy, I don't do...
Yeah, but it's like some people like to work with ensembles, because I've seen both shows.
But you don't have an option though, because you got the show, whatever the show offers up is what you work with.
Yeah, but I mean, those two shows are ensembles when you consider them, like they're a group of actors.
Yeah,
and everything like that. There's not like a one-on-one, like we said, like a Columbo kind of thing like that. Who are, you're gonna investigate, all these different people. So it's like, when you said that, what you do is, I think it's your planning that you put.
I guess so, yeah.
Into play. You make you ensure that you're not doing your own thing, but you're doing the thing that serves that program. Do you know what I mean? You're not coming in and you're upsetting the apple cart. Some directors could do that.
They can't, because they just get sacked. It's not. But when you work in TV, you would. It's like if the director goes in and then they're like, I want to do this, because you'd have a meeting already with the people that tell you the world that you're in, and you don't get me wrong.
You, hey,
you can
I don't want to hear new ideas.
You can no, they don't say that at all. It's like you're encouraged to, but within the world of it. Within the world of the show, is that you can't go into Coronation Street and then go, oh, I want to shoot it all single camera and I want it to look like film noir and whatever. I think it'll work for this thing. It won't. Yeah. But every now and again, Coronation Street might do an episode like that.
Yeah.
And then you can work within that, because you're not serving yourself. You're not going onto these shows to shoot your show reel. I've got some amazing show reel stuff off the jobs, but because it's within the world of it, it's like the person who you're serving, the people who you're serving are the audience. Do you know what I mean? It's like that you're not going in to try and shake it up because you want to put your stamp on something. That's not what that world is. If you're doing a short film, or if you're doing a feature film, do whatever you want. If you're at the beginning, the inception stage of a show, because you're creating the look and feel. But the producers and the execs are the ones who sign that off. There's all this whole thing in people's minds that you're the director and directors can do this and do that. It's like it's not true. It's not true. And people who say that are liars. Because if you go in, even as a DOP, and you want to put your stamp on something, I tell you what, after the rushes come through, if the execs don't like that style, you're going to go. They will replace you with somebody else.
You've heard it here first, right, Phil?
But everyone should. Sure, I thought that's standard.
I think no. Listen, not like I thought that's how television worked, because I actually have not worked in television. But I mean, like in that aspect, I totally take on board what you're saying, because, like you just said, I mean, if they see something that is totally not the way that it's supposed to be out, what I mean? And
don't get me wrong, they wouldn't just come down and sack you, but they'd be like, look, this isn't where I'm going, this isn't the show, it needs to be more this. But if you were the person who's like, I will know, stick it to your guns, you've got to be a team player, that's it. You're creating something within the world of something which already exists. You can put your stamp on that. You get moments in a thing where you're like, oh, like we did a bit on when Death in Paradise, there was a scene where when Ralph Little's character was leaving, and I did their very last episodes, and he was with Josephine, who played this love interest. She'd come back, and we had this bit where like the sun was setting, and the DOP was like, oh, what about, and I was like, oh yeah, silhouettes, if we just silhouetted them. And it's like, and Death in Paradise is not silhouettes, like it's not, it's bright, it's bold, but at this point it was like they're gonna go together, but they're not. They were about to leave the beach, and we were like, and we dropped it right down, and we did this lovely silhouette shots of the two of them, and it got in, and it was fine, but it worked within the narrative of it, and yet you could put those stamps, and it's telling the story in that way, and you can have those discussions. But I also had a cross shoot as well, which were lit in a different way, that if we couldn't get through, we had that as a backup. Do you know what I mean?
You had to have coverage.
But, you got the coverage for that. It's like, it's this whole thing of one shots now, and I think one shots are amazing. I love one shots when they really work within the context of.
What do you mean,
the
like
script.
the Warner thing?
Yeah, it's very pop. Everyone's doing, since like with adolescence and all those things.
Yeah,
everyone's like that, and I think within the world of that, within the world of the scene, if it works, yeah, great. But I've done scenes in episodes of stuff where you go, oh, this holds, and it kind of, we can let it go, and and it'll kind of tell the story. But what people also don't realize is that sometimes your episode has to be 53 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you've done 53 minutes and you've got to cut all that time out, where's the time going to go? So they might just drop that scene. So you've got to make sure that your job as a director for TV is making sure that you shoot the show as well. It's not just about kind of doing what you want to do.
Yeah. It has to have this sense of succinctness.
Yeah.
Same as this show, because Phil is over there, like, giving me the finger, as usual. But either way, so Leon, this has been really a fascinating conversation. I feel fascinated by it. But, like, as I asked you, like, what you got coming up, and you just said, you got your irons in the fire. But, as usual in this business, can't say anything at this stage.
Yeah, it's not
but
because it's an amazing job. It's a big
what you do next.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's just because I've got a job but I haven't signed the contract for it, so I don't want to say I'm doing it and then I don't get it. But.
Can't do that. But how can people find you without, and obviously not to send you a showreel. But
so just add you Twitter or Instagram,
kind of
really.
Like that, yeah.
Well, everything's linked on that, or, Brown Boy Productions is like I've got a company where a lot of all my shorts and stuff, my old stuff's on there. And I've just set up Parliament Street Productions with Sharice Weaver, who I work with, and Brody Arthur. And we're going to be doing a lot more like local, hopefully, content where it's going to be dramas from.
Which is also known as the Black Actors Collective. I'll give
There's
them
the Black
a shout
Actors,
out.
yeah. Well, they're separate, but they work with the Black Actors Collective.
Still gave you a shout out.
Yeah.
Hey, Leon, this is great, man. Even though you didn't mention that friend that you did that thing for, but we know it's a mutual friend of ours.
Which one did what thing for?
And when you said you were doing something, it wasn't a Stephen Cole.
Steve Cole. Oh, yeah, Steve Cole's show reel. Didn't I say his name?
No, you didn't say his name.
The show reel, the guy did in LA, Stephen Cole.
Hey, look, yeah. I worked with Stephen Cole. I just want Stephen Cole. No, I mentioned him on the show.
Didn't I meet you through Stephen though? Wasn't that? He was in your film because we were in one of your films.
Yeah, he was in my film, but you were in my film first. You were in my first film.
Did I bring? Was he not in that same one?
No.
I thought we were in the same one.
No. The Land of Nod.
The Land of Nod, yeah.
22 years ago.
Oh, don't say that. I can't be. I'm only 21.
Look, dude, yeah, you're 21. You're 21. Like I'm 30, right, Phil? And Phil's 5. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you found it very entertaining and educational, because Leon is a man who's actually working in the business right now. And I'm really glad that you gave up your time to be here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you, Leon Lopez. I'm Chase Johnson Lynch, and for now, we out of here.